Happy Halloween, everybody. Let's see if you remember this one. A young criminology student and inventor takes the night watchman shift at the local wax museum so he can go to school during the day. One of his inventions, a crime computer, accidentally wakes up 3 of the creatures from the legendary monsters exhibit, bringing them to life, along with memories of their past misdeeds. But now they feel guilty about all the people they used to disembowel and wish to make amends. So they team up to fight crime, monster style. In this Halloween 2023 special episode of the Dandy Funhouse, get ready to get scary crime fighting funky with the Monster Squad. Let's step into the Funhouse.
Where am I?
You just entered the Dandy Funhouse.
Hello and welcome to the 2023 Halloween special edition of the Dandy Funhouse video show, podcast, and blog. This is where we wolf down the best in retro pop culture, toys and games, and all the fun stuff. I'm your host, Neil Dandy, and in this episode, we're gonna open the coffin lid on a Saturday morning TV show from the mid-70s that ran for less than a year, but still managed to make its bite marks on TV pop culture history, and to be frank, should have gotten more attention than it did. I'm talking about the Monster Squad.
My name's Walt. I work as night watchman here at Fred's Wax Museum to put myself through criminology college. It used to be very lonely until recently when I plugged in my crime computer. Suddenly, oscillating vibrations brought to life 3 legendary monsters. Dracula, the werewolf, and Frankenstein. Creatures hated and feared for centuries, now determined to make up for their past misbehaving by fighting crime wherever they find it. Together, we're the Monster Squad.
The Monster Squad was a Saturday morning TV series produced by D'Angelo Bullock Allen Productions that aired on NBC from September 11th, 1976 to September 3rd, 1977, and starred a young Fred Grandy, who later went on to greater television fame, playing the role of Gopher on The Love Boat. Fred played a criminology student named Walt, who took a night watchman job at Fred's Wax Museum. Now, there wasn't a whole lot to do hanging out all night in a wax museum, so Walt passed the time tinkering with his invention, the crime computer, which he kept stashed away inside a stone sarcophagus next to the legendary monsters exhibit. Well, when Walt plugged in his crime computer for the very first time, oscillating vibrations unwittingly brought the wax statues of Dracula, Wolfman, and Frankenstein's monster to life. Upon their awakening, the monsters find themselves filled with remorse for all the blood-sucking, skull-crushing, and peeing on fire hydrants they remember from their past lives, and they have a desire to right their wrongs with humanity. So they team up with Walt and his crime computer to become super monster crime fighters and take on supervillains all over town. Now, I'm not sure what it is about this particular town that attracts all the evil weirdos of crime, but I'm guessing they weren't here in the South where I'm located, because lock and load. Basically, the monsters would go out and fight crime while Gopher, Walt, would hang back in the cushy comforts of the Wax Museum and monitor everything from the crime computer. Now, every once in a while, Walt would get off his tuchus and go help his monster friends in the final climactic battle and rescue them from their screw-ups when he had to. The monsters were played by Henry Pollock II as Dracula. Henry's best known for his portrayal of Jerry Silver on the TV show Webster. The Wolfman, or Bruce W. Wolf, was played by Buck Cartalian. And Frank N. Stein was played by Michael Lane. Scary fun fact. An interesting note about Buck Cartalian and Michael Lane. They both came from the world of professional wrestling, which I'm sure came in handy for the agility needed in action scenes. Frankie had super strength. Wolfie could climb walls and fight like a rabid dog. He also curled up on rugs and had a crush on Lassie. And Drac could turn into a bat. Yep, that's it. Now, of course, they had their own decked out monster van with wall-to-wall shag carpeting because, it was the 70s, baby. And they all wore utility belts because Batman. The show actually looked and felt a lot like the Batman TV series, or maybe the discount store version of the Batman TV series, with a lot of the visual and scriptural elements, mainly because the creator, Stanley Ralph Ross, had been one of the head writers on Batman. But it had almost zero star power. They did bring in the legendary Catwoman, Julie Newmar, meow, from the Batman TV series for one episode to play the supervillainous Ultra Witch. Her evil plot was to turn the entire world's milk sour. She used a ray gun to turn the monsters into cardboard cutouts, presumably to place onto the backs of the sour milk cartons once people realize they're missing. In the end, she stupidly fires the ray gun into a mirror and turns herself into a cardboard cutout. And that's Darwinism. They also brought in Alice Ghostly, best known as Esmeralda, the housekeeper on Bewitched, to play a villainess named Queen Bee, who conducts an enormous swarm of killer bees in a plot to take over the world. Now, other than that, the special guest actors and actresses were very much C and D list. Scary fun fact! The title of every episode of the Monster Squad was also the name of the supervillain.
Breaker 19. Since it was the 70s and Convoy was a big hit on the radio, and the CB radio fad was all the rage, of course, they all had to have their own trucker handles. Walt Beck at the museum was Chamber of Horrors, Drac was Night Flyer, Frank was Green Machine, and Wolfie was Furball. Over.
I can't imagine why this series didn't last longer than it did. Although it lasted just under 1 year before NBC drove a stake through the heart of this lovable, flop-tastic phenom, it did finally receive a modicum of respect when in 2009, Monster Squad: The Complete Series was released on home video. Causing further confusion, however, there was a movie released in 1987 called The Monster Squad, where the monsters are the bad guys, and has absolutely no relation to the TV series. Fred Grandy went on, of course, to earn eternal pop culture idol status, playing the role of Gopher on the TV series The Love Boat, and later went on to serve 4 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives for the great state of Iowa, serving on the Ways and Means Committee. He also won 8 Watchdog of the Treasury Awards. Go, go, Gopher! From 1995 to 2000, Fred Grandy was president of Goodwill International and later became a commentator for NPR. Now, these days, he spends a great deal of his time advising on methods to combat domestic terrorism. A big dandy funhouse salute to you on this Halloween, Mr. Fred Grandy. Thank you for your service to our country, but more importantly, pop culture history. Okay, there you go. The Monster Squad. Campy and goofy as all get out, but still a lot of fun and perfect for a Halloween regurgitation here on the Dandy Funhouse. In my opinion, every bit as good as anything Sid and Marty Krofft ever made. Now, that ought to fire up the comments board. Do you remember the Monster Squad? Share your thoughts about it with me by dropping a line to me through the contact page at dandyfunhouse.com. And while you're there, consider supporting the production of future episodes by visiting the patronage page and becoming a Dandy Funhouse supporter. Supporters gain access to exclusive bonus material, and super supporters gain access to that exact same bonus material. Plus, I'll mail you something really cool from right here at the Dandy Funhouse Studios and Halloween Dungeon if you provide your mailing address. It's not that hard, folks. And if you listen to the podcast and your app supports making donations, we're set up for that too. Likes and subscribes wherever you can offer them. Like those two, and 5-star reviews are highly appreciated. All right, my Halloweener dogs, that about mummy wraps this Halloween 2023 edition of the Dandy Funhouse. Don't be a turkey. Come back next month for the Thanksgiving episode, and we'll gobble up so much good stuff. Maybe even do an episode on the Go-Go Gophers. That'd make a nice segue. We're all gonna need bigger pants. Right here at the Dandy Funhouse, where everything is always fun and dandy.
Este to jest nasz
Come here.